Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I am streaming to you live from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada next to the Pacific Ocean. Welcome Balbir, welcome students. Hi Jaineel, hi Kyber, welcome to our members. We are looking at speaking part 3 in this class, discussing how to get that fluency for the band 9 kinds and levels of responses. Students, this lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of our websites, we have lots of help for you to improve your speaking, get those high band scores by improving your grammar, your lexical resource, and very importantly, your communication. While we wait for some more students, let me show you these websites real quick. This is our academic IELTS website here at aehelp.com. You just have to click that big red button to join our premium package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access, and it costs a fraction of your IELTS exam, so it's well worth the small investment. We are a British Council IELTS registration center and certified agents. And for general IELTS, visit gieltshelp.com. We have two websites because we focus specifically on either the academic or the general. Again, click that big red button to join the premium package. When you do that, you have a My Student account. And once you get into your My Student account, you have lots of goodies, including student partner speaking. Okay, so for student partner speaking, you have a chance to find other people to practice your speaking with. Right now we have Gus here waiting for somebody to video or audio chat. So you would just simply go here, click on video chat, maybe send Gus a message saying, hey Gus, you want to practice some speaking? Okay, let me get out of here before Gus pings me. Okay, good on you, Gus, for being there. Okay, everyone, so that is where you want to go for help with your exam. Now, for questions, just send me an email, Adrian at aehelp.com. You can get our exam books from Amazon as well. Search for AE Helps Academic IELTS or GE Helps General IELTS. Note our schedule, our streaming schedule is Universal Time, 12:30 to 13:30 for members, and this time, 14 to 15 o'clock, Wednesdays to Saturdays. So no classes tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, but I am back on the 19th with Speaking Part 1. So today we're doing Speaking Part 3, and then your next class will be on the 19th for Speaking Part 1. Yeah, thanks, Ali. I like to be animated. Ali says, Adrian, you have a style. Yeah, I'm a bit of an animated person. I like to eat life with a spoon. So, all right. Okay, everyone. Well, let's get into it. So we just finished a Speaking Part 2 class with our members half an hour ago. And that class was about a cue card. The cue card, the topic was talk about a place you went to often as a child. And maybe some of you were in that class, some of you weren't. We're just going to go through our answer together because Speaking Part 3 in your IELTS speaking interview is connected with your Speaking Part 2 answer. So we're just going to go over Speaking Part 2. It'll be good practice for those of you who were in the class. So this is speaking. So make sure to speak and repeat. Okay, it's great practice. And then as soon as we go over this, we'll continue with speaking part 3 questions. Okay, so let's get into it. Rahul says, I was in the last session. Perfect, Rahul. So let's practice this. I'm going to read and speak. Try to speak without reading if possible. Okay, so again, the topic is talk about a place you went to often as a child. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. A place that I frequented from the age of 7 to 10 about 2 to 3 times each week was my local pool, Crystal Lanes, located roughly 5 kilometers from my home in my district. This recreation center is located on about 10 acres of government land that is owned and operated by the city of Victoria. The pool is an Olympic-sized 50-meter pool with 10 lanes and about 1 meter in the shallow end to about 3 meters in the deep end. The deeper end of the pool also has 3 and 5 meter diving boards. There are 2 other smaller pools for toddlers and for games. I had started going to this pool at the age of 7 with my parents for swimming lessons, and then later with my peers from school. Of course, there were always trainers and lifeguards who were there to make sure that I wouldn't drown. Between the age of 7 and 15, I learned to effectively swim in several styles: front crawl, backstroke, and even butterfly. I attained a lifeguard level 1 certificate at the age of 15, which later came in really handy to land a summertime job at the beach near my home. I participated in many fun events at the pool, including swim meets and even the occasional water polo tournament. I have many emotional memories from my frequent visits to the pool. I clearly recall being so scared of swimming in the deep end for the first time. Also, I remember how proud I was when I won my first race. Now I look back on these regular visits to the pool with positive thoughts, not to mention that being a strong swimmer, I am confident while traveling to different aquatic destinations in the world, and I can take full advantage of water sports like going surfing in Hawaii back in 2018. Okay, so your 2 minutes is up. I will stop you there. I'm going to take back the card. Please put the note paper to the side, put your pen to the side, and now we will continue with part 3. For part 3, I will ask you a question related to your response and some questions on the topic of part 2. Okay, so here, the examiner will come up with a question that's connected directly to your answer. So something about your frequent visits to the swimming pool. What do you think the examiner might ask you as a follow-up to your speech? So think about that. Meanwhile, I'll check out what's going on in our chat here. Nevis says, sir, when you then, because I've heard that I shouldn't say you in the exam, and it's considered as appealing to the examiner. I'm not sure if this is... Yeah, Nevis, you should not use the word you in the exam. I keep telling students that as well, yeah. You're not speaking directly to your examiner. You're usually speaking about yourself or in third person. So Nevis, it is good information. Do not use the word you, okay? All right, yeah, David agrees. Okay. Otis says, how much does it cost to swim in the pool each time, and how long is the session? Yeah, Otis, that could be a possible question. Carolina says, would you take your kids to that pool? Okay, good. Yeah, Carolina, sure, why not? Could be. Rajveer says, which was the most challenging lesson at the pool? Yeah, Rajveer, that could be it as well, for sure. Yeah. Amanjot says, what kind of water games are popular in your country? Yeah, it's kind of on topic, Amanjot. A little bit off topic. Little Mermaid says, who do you usually go with? Little Mermaid, maybe a little bit more specific, like who do you usually go with? Who do you usually go swimming with these days? Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, so those are some good ones. I like Rajveer's question. Maybe something like, what part of your swimming lessons did you find most challenging? Yeah, that could really well be one of the questions. So again, it's going to be related to your response. So it might be something like this. What part of your swimming lessons did you find most challenging? Okay, give me an answer for that. So nice full sentence answer. Think about the response. So what part of your swimming lessons did you find most challenging? So I would write something like, or I would say something like, definitely. Okay. So this would be my answer. Let's see what you came up with. Arta says, I found the butterfly style the most challenging part of my swimming lessons. Yeah, Arta, that could be it. Okay. All right. Rajveer says, I think the most difficult part of the swimming lessons was learning the butterfly style of swimming as it requires both flexibility and stamina. Very true. Nice explanation. Ois says, actually, I faced problems with holding my breath because I have asthma and I get short of breath. Ooh, Ois, yeah, that would be a tough one, learning to hold your breath with asthma. But hey, you have to try. Little Mermaid says, I think that Little Mermaid, you have a very good name for today's lesson, right? With the swimming pool. So Little Mermaid Love says, I think that learning to hold my breath at the beginning was the most stressful and challenging. I remember choking hundreds of times to finally become a skilled swimmer and to be able to hold my breath for longer periods, like a couple minutes. Okay, Kevin says, diving was the most difficult part for me. Kevin, go into details. Why was diving difficult? Okay, all right. Laryint says, trying to hold my breath for 30 seconds underwater was challenging for me. Okay, why, Laryint? It's good. I like your use of quantitative language. So here is my answer. Repeat after me. Again, this is a speaking class, so make sure to speak and repeat. So what part of your swimming lessons did you find most challenging? Definitely learning the butterfly was very challenging. However, the most challenging was when I had to learn the way to rescue a drowning adult and swim them to shore. This took a lot of not only energy, but correct technique. Okay, and if anybody's learned lifeguarding, we use that as a verb as well. If you've learned lifeguarding, then you will know exactly what I'm talking about, because swimming a fully grown adult to shore who's drowning is not an easy task. All right. So now the examiner will say, okay, let's talk about places for children. Why? Because part 2 was about a place that you went to often as a child. So now for part 3, to get that high band score, okay, so just a couple of tips as we get into these questions. So tip 1, okay, is always think about the answer, explanation, and example. I say it every time, and I'm going to keep saying it every time because it's so important. Okay, so think about that. Tip 2, use the question. Paraphrase parts of the question in your answer. Okay. And tip 3 is make connections among your part 3 and part 2 answers. Okay, super important. As long as you can do that, follow these 3 tips, you're going to have excellent coherence and cohesion, meaning connection. You're going to have really good connection among your ideas. So definitely do that. Okay. All right. Okay, so the examiner at this point will say, yeah, let's talk about places for children, and then they will say, what are some facilities that are built for children to learn and develop? Give me a nice full sentence answer for this one. So what are some places or some facilities that are built for children to learn and develop? Okay. Kyber says, well, I think local swimming pools with a depth of 1 to 3 meters and kindergartens are some of the places that are built for 2 to 12-year-olds to learn new skills and to be confident with the use of various types of equipment. As I mentioned earlier, I'm more confident in going to various places and on a boat as I'm not scared of the water. I do not have aquaphobia. Okay. All right. Good. Ois says there are lots of clubs for kids to improve their confidence, their aptitude, and physical ability, such as kids' theaters, swimming pools, as I mentioned before, not above. Ois, you're not writing, okay? So as I mentioned before, and of course, public schools, okay? All right. Good. I'm going to give an answer for that. So aside from public pools that I had just mentioned, schools are built to aid the development of kids as well as community centers and lots of playgrounds to promote their physical growth and well-being. I can find these facilities within walking distance of my home. All right. So again, making connections, as I said, okay, making connections. So answer, explain, example, make connections to your part 2, okay? So repeat after me. What are some facilities that are built for children to learn and develop? Aside from public pools that I had just mentioned, notice this leading answer, aside from public pools that I had just mentioned. So immediately I'm showing the examiner that I'm recognizing that part 2 and part 3 are related. This is a conversation. We're getting into detailed information, and I'm making that connection aside from public pools. And notice this that I had just mentioned. This is past perfect. So by using this kind of a phrase I had just mentioned, you're picking up grammatical range and accuracy points right away. Okay, so Shaksib, Aksmatov, good luck on your test on the 24th. Make sure to make these kinds of connections. Don't be stressed. Just follow the class, make these connections, okay? All right. And then what are these places? Well, schools, of course. Children go to school to learn and develop. Part 3 shouldn't be rocket science, so don't get too nervous, okay? Just keep your thoughts clear, all right? So to aid and develop and the development of kids, as well as community centers and lots of playgrounds to promote their physical growth and well-being. I can find these facilities within walking distance of my home. So that's kind of my explanation example, okay? So again, schools are built to aid the development of kids, as well as community centers and lots of playgrounds to promote their physical growth and well-being. Of course, there are libraries and many others. What's important is recognizing that it's facilities in the question, so it is a plural. So make sure that you're focusing on that plural. Okay. If you have questions about the answers, let me know, everyone. I'm here to help. Okay. Now, part 3 is like an in-depth conversation with your examiner. So they're going to ask you follow-up questions. They will ask you questions related to your answer. Okay. So the next question that the examiner may ask is, which of these are government funded and why? So which of these kinds of places are government funded and why? Okay, so you have to answer, are pools government funded? Are schools government funded? Are playgrounds government funded? And why? Why would the government fund these places? So think quick, think critical, think in English. Okay? Give me a nice full sentence answer for this one. Yeah. 545 Haman, IELTS indicator test can be useful. However, do remember that even if you pass it and your application is accepted, you might still need to do the standard IELTS exam a little bit later on. Okay. All right. Balbier says public schools and community centers are government funded. For instance, the Canadian government allocated $10 billion to improve childcare centers for challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm not sure what that means at the end. Okay, so your beginning is good, Balbier, but I don't know how the COVID connects to improving childcare centers. You'd have to explain that for clarity. David Eigerman says, I believe that certain kids' facilities are publicly funded. Among these are kindergartens, middle schools, so public school system. Okay, the public school system. Keep it simple. All right. Soksip says, using some phrasal verbs, correct grammar, good vocabulary gives you a chance for band 8.5. Partly, Soksib Aksmatov. Good grammar, good vocabulary, it's important. However, very importantly, you have to have good content. Keep that in mind. So good content. Your answers have to be accurate. Sometimes people memorize answers with great grammar and vocabulary, but they're not accurate with content, and they definitely do not get 8.5. Okay. OS says the government pays support for public schools and some entertainment facilities such as theaters and swimming pools because these facilities build the next generation and lead to the overall development of the community. OS, good start. Notice the corrections and insertions that I gave with your answer to make it accurate and clear. Okay. Yoden says, as far as I'm concerned, many schools, libraries, and playgrounds, in order to enhance the abilities of students physically and mentally. Yoden, it's not just as far as you're concerned. I think most people would agree with you. Careful with that expression, students, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned means my opinion is specific. But in this case, it's not a specific opinion because certain places are government funded according to, everyone. Rajveer says, I think schools are funded by government because education is a basic need for all people in order to prosper in life. The Indian government spends a significant amount of budget to build new schools and universities. Okay, Rajveer, it's not bad. It's only one of several here, though, so I think we could give a more rounded answer in this case. All right, so which of these are government funded and why? Well, in fact, in most cases, all of the places that I had just mentioned are publicly funded through tax revenue because there is a common belief that children have the right for universal education, and regardless of socio-economic status, kids must have opportunities to learn and develop. Therefore, the government allocates millions of dollars to build community centers, playgrounds, and even the pool I went to as a child. There's my connection and my example. Okay, here we go. So, follow-up question here. Repeat after me. Copy my intonation, my pronunciation. So, which of these are government funded and why? Well, in fact, in most cases, all of the places that I had just mentioned are publicly funded through tax revenue because there's a common belief that children have the right for universal education, and regardless of socioeconomic status, kids must have opportunities to learn and develop. Therefore, the government allocates millions of dollars to build community centers, playgrounds, and even the pool I went to as a child. Okay, so clear, accurate, concise, connected information. All right. When I use certain types of vocabulary and it's new for you, or you do not use it often enough, even if you know it. I know some of you are very high level with your lexical resource, so some of you know words like socioeconomic, or you know the collocation, socioeconomic status. Still write it down, okay? So write down socioeconomic status, or circle this word, define it, and then learn it. Socioeconomic status refers to lower, middle, upper class citizens within a society. So depending on wage or salary, you have a certain socioeconomic class that gives you certain abilities, and they're usually classed as lower, middle, upper middle, and the wealthy or upper class. Okay. All right. So let's go to the next question. So again, write down new vocabulary. Okay. Here we go. How have playgrounds changed since a generation ago? It's a good question. I'm curious about what you will answer for this. I know I can tell you a little bit about how playgrounds have changed in Victoria. Okay. All right. Amanjot says, a few years ago, playgrounds were a space with some greenery outside the cities. But now they are built at various places in cities with different facilities like gyms and various game materials like volleyball, various sports equipment like volleyball nets and courts. Okay. Jassy says 2 to 3 decades prior, playgrounds used to be monotonous as there were no modern amenities available. However, modern playgrounds contain plenty of sports pitches at a single ground, including... Okay, Jassy, good. I can see where you're going with this. So really nice fluency there. Oa says, there have been some extreme changes in playgrounds over the last 50 years where most of them are much more organized and entertaining, and they're also safer. The playgrounds are not only for kids, but for people of all ages. Okay, Ois, great ideas. Again, Ois, keep working on your grammar and word choice, okay? And of course, one way to do it is to keep practicing your answers in these live classes so you're on the right track. Okay. Muftuna says, in Uzbekistan, playgrounds were really simple a few decades ago with few sports equipment, but now all of them are equipped with electronic devices with the help of development in technologies. Okay, Muftuna, it's not a bad start. Can you give me an example of what you mean by electronic devices at playgrounds? We don't really have that here, so I have a hard time visualizing that. We do have modern equipment and technology at playgrounds in Victoria and Vancouver, but I haven't seen electronic devices at playgrounds. Maybe there's something in Uzbekistan that's different than here. So make sure you explain that, otherwise it's unclear. Okay. Kashirsha says they have drastically changed. A few decades ago, back in the USSR, all of the playgrounds used to be metal beams with lack of sports facilities, but now most of them are plastic, which makes them safer. Okay, yeah, they're not as hard when you fall and smack your head off of the jungle gym. Okay. Amit says, well, 20 years ago, playgrounds were small, but nowadays they are big. In the past, the equipment was not really available, but now all parts of the playground have modernly engineered equipment safe for children. Okay, Amit, good. Don't lose it near the end, Amit. Be careful. Make sure that your response is clear and concise and complete all the way to the end. Sidesh says, playgrounds have come a long way since the past 4 decades, not only in regards to the utilities, but also amenities. Like these days, the football pitch can provide equipment like nets, as well as first aid. Okay, so first aid at the playgrounds, yeah, that's possible. All right, Sidesh Somni says, playgrounds have come a long way. Okay, yeah, I just read that. Okay, sorry, Sidesh, that was good, yeah. Let's see. David Eigerman says, I've noticed that there are significant changes both in the quality and quantity of the facilities for kids at playgrounds in particular. Today, kids may play right inside their backyard living in an apartment, while about 25 years ago, there weren't these opportunities for most Russian citizens. So you have playgrounds now, not just at the center of the district or at the parks in the district, but you have them even more locally in the backyards of apartment buildings. Okay, that's a change for sure. So present perfect, one of the tips I said at the beginning was to use the grammar of the questions and to use elements of the question. Have changed. Present perfect is very important. I think it was Rashika that realized that and said very quickly, oh, yes, playgrounds have changed much over the past few decades. Okay. This kind of sentence, you can basically use it for just about any question that's using the present perfect with change. Present perfect, of course, is very frequently used when talking about change. So using this kind of sentence right at the beginning is super, super useful for your band score because you're showing the examiner that you know present perfect. And even if you're not really paraphrasing, like have playgrounds changed, playgrounds have changed, you're still picking up a lot of points in your speaking for doing that, for using that present perfect. The examiner is really hoping to hear that present perfect. So keep that in mind, okay? So, oh yes, playgrounds have changed over the past few decades. Back in my childhood, playgrounds had been much simpler with less equipment, made of either wood or metal. However, these days, playgrounds have been carefully engineered to maximize safety and enjoyment of children. Nowadays, most of the equipment like the jungle gyms, are made of plastic and have many elements. At the playground near my home, there is even an artificial climbing wall. Okay, so answer, explain, example, reflect the grammar of the question, show your fluency. I know it's a lot. It's even a lot for me to say, but that is really what you need to do to get those high band scores. So here we go. Repeat after me. How have playgrounds changed since a generation ago? Oh, yes, playgrounds have changed much over the past few decades. Back in my childhood, playgrounds had been much simpler with less equipment made of either wood or metal. However, these days, playgrounds have been carefully engineered to maximize safety and enjoyment of children. Nowadays, most of the equipment, like the jungle gyms, are made of plastic and have many elements. At the playground near my home, there's even an artificial climbing wall. Well, those have become pretty popular these days at playgrounds. I know my daughter loves those little climbing walls. And I saw them in Europe, and I see them in North America as well. I'm guessing they're in other parts of the world also. Notice the correlative conjunction, either or. Notice the present perfect have changed. Playgrounds have changed. More present perfect here, have been engineered. Okay, so that's present perfect passive, had been much simpler. Okay, so past perfect. So really showing that lexical resource and grammatical range. Okay, so lots of grammatical range reflecting that perfect tense. That's what this question's fishing for. That's what you want to show to get that high band score. All right. Okay. Let's go to the next question. Again, following up. So the examiner is going to follow up with these. Is this good or bad? So the changes that have happened to playgrounds, is this good or bad? Okay. So is it good to have all this plastic equipment? Okay. There's always two sides to every story, but clearly it's going to be more of a positive here. OS says, absolutely, this is a positive because kids should enjoy their time and simultaneously they can have a meal. Just yesterday, I went to the family park in town where my kids had fun and we ate some burgers. Ois, I'm a little bit confused by how eating a burger comes into it. I think you might be hungry. Maybe go grab a snack after the class. I'm getting pretty hungry myself, to be honest with you. So maybe my next answer will have something about burgers or eggs and bacon in it as well. But yeah, careful to stay on topic, Ois. I'm with you on the hunger element there. I'm getting pretty hungry, so yeah, I'll probably go for a run before I eat something though after the class. Okay, let's keep going here. So A Little Mermaid says, these changes have certainly been for the better. Well-equipped playgrounds ensure more well-rounded education for the younger generation. My cousin has become extremely athletic as he's running and playing with his friends at the local playground daily. Very nice. I love it, Little Mermaid. Great answer. I like the use of natural expressions, so certainly being for the better, okay? And I love your smooth example that you kind of weave into the end of your response, okay? Those are great. Okay, it's a nice high band answer as long as you say that smoothly. Reba Khan says, I think this is good development. As I said before, now the safety of children is kept in mind while designing the equipment. Moreover, children can enjoy a wide variety of exercises. Very good. Okay, Amanjat Pamna, keep it in English. Okay, keep it in English. All right. All right. Yep, Carolina, you're right. You can take IELTS as many times as you like. Ideally, you're not taking it once every 2 weeks, okay, students? So just a little bit in addition to what our moderator is responding to our question. Our moderator, Carolina, is telling Kanchan that you can take the IELTS as many times as you want, which is true. However, keep in mind that IELTS is expensive. It's an expensive exam. It takes a lot of work and resources. So you shouldn't be taking the exam again and again. It's a valid, reliable exam. So if you're not improving your English and communication, you will end up with the same score. So just sitting the exam over and over does not improve your score. You have to improve your English and your communication. So I always recommend for students that if they do not get the score they need on the exam, then spend at least another month, minimum 1 month, learning to improve your communication in English before you sit the exam again. There is basically no point to sit the IELTS back to back within 2 weeks, okay? Keep that in mind. Thank you for that response, Carolina. All right. Bakrat says, of course, it's good for children to consume more energy and leading to healthier eating. And people are getting hungry. For me, it's breakfast. I think for many of you, it's probably supper time or late snack time. These changes also pique the interest of children to play sports and participate in different kinds of activities. Okay, that's great, Bakrat. Yeah, so that's good. Okay, so is this good or bad? Aside from the added pollution that the plastic from playground equipment will eventually create, I do think that these improvements are very positive for children's growth and development. They are less likely to injure themselves and more likely to be active since they have more options for games. All right, so you don't need to be really long-winded for every answer, but definitely do think answer, explain, example for at least 70% of your responses. Okay, is this good or bad? Well, aside from the added pollution that the plastic from playground equipment will eventually create, I do think that these improvements are very positive for children's growth and development. They are less likely to injure themselves and more likely to be active since they have more options for games. All right. Next question. Which places are good for children to go for entertainment? So again, right away you should be thinking, oh, here's one where I can connect information that I've been discussing with the examiner and shed more light on those responses. So which places are good for children to go to for entertainment? Kyber says zoos and hills with enjoying the view of nature from the top of a hill are good for relaxation, and they're great places for children to go to, as this could be beneficial for mental and physical health. I think it's a little bit awkward, Kyber, going to a hill. It's kind of weird. It wouldn't be my first thought when I'm thinking about enjoyable places for children to go, but as long as you explain it, then it's okay. You just need a bit of a clear explanation. Okay. Let's see some more answers. Hoang Anbui says, destinations where children can frequently go for kicks are communal places like playgrounds with purpose-built facilities, or simply their local town homes. I can imagine an outgoing kiddo having a blast, partaking in energetic games with their friends in the former, and the public library in the latter would be an oasis for less restless children to entertain themselves with a good read. Hold on. Yeah, it's okay. You're using some good language. Library and townhouse are kind of awkward answers again for this. Hint, hint, for many of you, especially the members that were in the previous class, when we thought about those different ideas, this is where those will come in really handy. So those different ideas to answer part 2, this is where you can be like, aha, yeah, I thought about a few of these places when I was brainstorming for my part 2 answer. And we even learned some new vocabulary there. So let's see if anybody recalls that. Okay. Honey Shach says, now there are a lot of recreational places for children, such as amusement parks, sports complexes, and gaming zones in malls. Just the other day, I took my son to the gaming zone for bowling. There we go, honey. That's a convincing answer for this question of what places are good for children to go for entertainment. Okay. So let's see if anybody else comes up with that. Janiel says, recreational centers, parks, and theaters are favored by many children and pupils to go for fun and leisure activities because these places help them to rejuvenate from their studies and enjoy time with their peers. Janiel, good. I would change the end a little bit. Rajveer says, apart from the swimming pool, which is both educational and entertaining for children, other venues are zoos, video arcades, and amusement parks. These facilities provide many fun activities with friends and family. Very good, Rajveer. That's what I was looking for. I was wondering who would use up the video arcades. Okay. All right. Good. So in addition to pools and playgrounds that I have been talking about, zoos, theme parks, and video arcades are fun places for kids to go and hang out with friends and family. Once each week, I take my daughter to such a place, and she has a blast with her friends for a few hours. Okay, good. So again, repeat after me. Here we go. Which places are good for children to go for entertainment? Well, in addition to pools and playgrounds that I have been talking about, zoos, theme parks, and video arcades are fun places for kids to go and hang out with friends and family. Once each week, I take my daughter to such a place, and she has a blast with her friends for a few hours. Has a blast. That's an expression to have a lot of fun. Notice my connection to my answers, and I have been talking about present perfect progressive. So more points for grammatical range and accuracy. Yay! So use those connections, okay? You're picking up cohesion and grammatical range and accuracy scores quickly and relatively easily, all right? Okay, and again, just a reminder, your notes and your brainstorming for your answers for part 2 are very useful in your part 3 answers. Don't forget those. A lot of students, I see them when I do these IELTS interviews, I see them writing down some great notes, and then it's really weird because in part 3, they will get stuck on some answers, and when I'm training them afterwards, I say, well, look at your notes for part 2. You actually wrote down the answer for the part 3 question, but you forgot to use it. It's not just for part 2, it's also for part 3. So keep that in mind, okay? So this is a big final tip for today's lesson. Keep in mind your ideas and notes from part 2 during your part 3 speaking. You won't be able to see your note paper because the examiner after part 2 will tell you to put it aside, but it doesn't mean you should forget what you wrote on the paper. Okay, so keep in mind your ideas and notes from part 2 during your part 3 speaking. Keep that in mind. Okay, so there are some more questions here that the examiner might ask you if you're really fluent. Let's talk about physical activity during childhood. And then well, you have some questions there. You can practice these questions and many other questions for the speaking on our websites. And you can do that with other students. You can also book lessons with me for speaking. The websites are aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. The academic IELTS website looks like this with the blue background. You can click that big red button to join the premium package. Once you're logged into your My Student account, you have your student partner speaking. And once you click on that, you can practice speaking with other students. Right now we have Yaroslav here waiting for somebody to video or audio chat. So ping Yaroslav, maybe send Yaroslav a text first saying, hey, I want to practice my speaking. And of course, you can book speaking lessons with me by clicking this speaking interview practice button. That's it for today. I will be back on Wednesday with more IELTS live streaming, starting with speaking part 1. It's usually how I like to start the week to get you nice and fluent. Awesome participation, everybody. Great job. Okay. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. I'm going to go get some food after I go for a run. I'll just drink some water for now. Do not run on a full stomach. It's not good. You're welcome, everybody. You're welcome, members. Beautiful participation again. I hope to see you all next week for some more classes. I'm Adrian, signing out from Victoria. Much love to all of you. A special thanks to our moderator, Carolina. And again, take care and stay healthy. Bye for now.